And the webinar title the webinar's title would be Know Your Privacy Rights, Data Privacy Act Awareness of 2012. Next slide, please. And in today's agenda, we're going to be talking about first the overview of Data Privacy Act. Uh, Next would be the principles of Data Privacy Act, the challenges of implementing Data Privacy Act, and then the best practices of implementing Data Privacy Acts in the company. So at the end of this webinar session, you guys will be able to know your privacy rights. And as a future HR associates, you guys will also know what are the things that you need to do with the employees' information in the future. So let's start first with what's Data Privacy Act of 2012. Next slide, please. So as you guys know, Filipinos are heavy social media users. 4.1 million are on Facebook, 13 million on Twitter, and 3.5 million are on LinkedIn. The country is also in the process of enabling free public Wi-Fi in the context of rapid growth of the digital economy and increasing international trade of data. So the Philippines basically has strengthened its privacy and security protections because as you guys know that we are heavy social media users. Like almost every day we're using Facebook, we're using Twitter, we're using Instagram, and all the other social media platforms to communicate with our loved ones. So it's expanding every day. That's why Data Privacy Act is created. So Republic Act 10173, also known as the Data Privacy Act of 2012 or DPA, aims to protect personal data information and communication systems both in the government and private sector. So the Data Privacy Act is created by the National Privacy Commission, which is tasked to monitor its implementation. So it was created due to the ever expanding usage of social media and also for data privacy protection since we're like more engaged now with technological devices. So Data Privacy Act of 2012, first, it protects the privacy of individuals while ensuring free flow of information to promote innovation and growth. Second, it also regulates collection, recording, organization, storage, updating, or modification retrieval, use and consolidation or blocking of erasure destructure of personal data. So most probably, we are working in the HR industry and we are in charge of keeping the data of the employees. So it's our job to make sure it's protected, it's secured, it's encrypted, because it's going to be our fault if ever that information will be transferred to another person or to another company without their permission. Lastly, it ensures the Philippines complies with international standards set for data protection through National Privacy Commission, which is the one who created the Data Privacy Act of 2012. So just to make it brief, Data Privacy Act of 2012 was actually created to protect everyone's privacy. That's why from the name itself, Data Privacy Act, it aims to protect our data, our information, and to keep us private and secured. Next slide, please. So yeah, as I have mentioned earlier, Data Privacy Acts give us the right to be informed, to access, to object, erasure blocking, to file a complaint, to rectify, or for data portability. So it gives us a lot of rights, um, but of course it has responsibilities that we also need to maintain in keeping those private data safe and secure. Next slide, please. So for the principles of Data Privacy Act, that will be further discussed by Sir Victor.
Okay. So the principle of Data Privacy Act, um, we start with the definition. The data privacy principle. This is one important thing that we should know when we are talking about data privacy. So personal data must be processed fairly and lawfully. Data quality should be ensured, and any authorized further processing must have adequate safeguards. Under the DPA, the general data privacy principles are transparency, legitimate purpose, and proportionality. So what are these three? So transparency, any information and communication relating to the processing of personal data should be easy to access and understand using clear and plain language. So for example, when you open the government portals like SSS or Pag-ibig Funds, uh, government.com, you will see that all the information there are easily accessible and easy to understand. And some agencies like LTO, they use Tagalog version and also English version. So they want to make sure that everyone, every citizen can understand clearly uh, the information that was written on that portal. So yan. Legitimate purpose naman requires that the collection and processing of information must also be compatible with a declared and specified purpose, which must not be contrary to the law, morals, or public policy. In other words, a personal data should be processed fairly and lawfully. So, example of this information, actually we have three types of information. We have personal information, sensitive personal information, and privileged information. When we talk about personal information, these are basic information, basic profile from for individual profile like name, uh, age, sex, address. Those are basic information. But when we talk about sensitive personal information, these are information that relating to religion, political, or philosophical ideas na that are not necessary or doesn't need to be mentioned when asking for personal information. So meaning these are information na hindi naman kailangan ibigay uh, you personally unless it is very important. And thirdly is the privileged information. When talking about the privileged information, uh, these are information that uh, between two person. Like for example, yung doctor and you. Meron kayong the doctor has information regarding your health status. So, yung information na yon between you and the doctor. Or for example, you and the lawyer. So the lawyer has personal knowledge um, about your yung kaso mo, yung case against you, yung case sa'yo. So, between the client and the lawyer or the attorney relationship, yun yung information na meron kayo. Kayo lang yung nag-uusap doon. Pwede rin doon sa pare. Kunyari, nagko-confession ka sa isang pare. So, hindi pwedeng yung pare i-disclose niya yung sinabi mo sa pare na nagbigay ka ng information sa pare na nagkumpisal ka. Hindi pwede sabihin ng pare sa ibang tao yung kinumpisal mo sa pare, sa kanya. So, yun yung those are sample of privilege information. So, the third one is the proportionality. Consent should be freely given, specific, and informed indication of will, where the data subject agrees to the collection and processing of personal information about and or relating to him or her. The consent shall be evidenced by written, electronic, or recorded means. So, ibig sabihin lang nito, the information should be suitable, necessary, and not excessive in relation to the declared and specified purposes. So, hindi ka pwede magdagdag ng information na hindi naman totoo or magbawas na ng information. It should be suitable lang o yung tama lang dapat. Yan. And then challenges in implementing data will be reported by Mr. Jericho.
Thank you for that, Mr. Vic. So yeah, guys, going back, challenges implementing Data Privacy Act of 2012, just like any other policies, this Data Privacy Act of 2012 specifically, kapag in-implement siya, syempre meron din siyang challenges na we might encounter in the future, just in case we have it applied in the company where we're working as an HR associate. So it has a lot of challenges, to be quite honest with you guys, but I just only listed two of the most common challenges that's being faced when implementing Data Privacy Act of 2012. So let's start with number one. So that's going to be lack of awareness. Next slide, please. Okay, so some businesses may be unaware of the data privacy laws in different countries. So this lack of awareness can lead to non-compliance with data privacy rules, resulting in hefty fines. So some of the things that in layman's term, there are some companies, specifically HR associates, that are not really familiar with Data Privacy Act. They don't really know that Data Privacy Act of 2012 exists. So that's going to be the number one issue. Yung personal information of the employees are not being encrypted or it's not being secured properly. It's because they're not aware about the Data Privacy Act, about the existence of it. So running a business which needs to register as data controller means you will need to train all your staff and to ensure that data is properly handled in accordance with the act. So file needs to be secured, proper paperwork containing personal data should be shredded, and much more. So if it's not necessary, it should be shredded, it should be thrown to trash, but it should be properly disposed. And later on, we're going to be talking about the best practices of implementing Data Privacy Act, which will be further discussed by Mr. Vic later on. So that's the number one issue. They're not aware with the existence of Data Privacy Act. So that's most commonly the reason why there are some rules or there are some law just like this nalalabag kasi they're not really familiar about the existence of it. Next would be the cost, or it might be too expensive. So keeping your system secure and preventing data privacy issues at the enterprise level can be expensive, but the cost of a data breach are so significant, so you need to bite the bullet and invest properly. What does it mean? It means that having your system secured or encrypt is kind of expensive, because like as as an HR intern of HR Primo, I'm not really familiar with encrypting data or making it secured. And sometimes we might be needing like an IT expert or someone who knows a lot about computer and stuff. So I think that's the number one issue, because some might say the cost of data protection registration is prohibitive. However, our low cost service ensures registration is far less taxing on your wallet. So it's not really an issue. But of course, if the company is just starting up, it might be difficult for them to fund for someone who can help them encrypting the data, if that makes sense to you. Because it needs to be encrypted, it needs to be secured. If you guys are familiar, there are some offices na nalagay for HR personnel only. They're the only person allowed to get inside the room, and then sometimes there pa silang mga like fingerprint scanner or like security something to make it really secured. So making that kind of room or having those systems is quite expensive. You need to invest on it, because you'll get to realize its purpose once you get to encounter issues in the future. So that's probably the reason why it's kind of expensive, or it increases the maintenance cost of a company. So yeah. So for the best practices of implementing Data Privacy Act, that will be further discussed by Mr. Vic. Hello, sir. Hang on tight. So, sir.
Yes. Na-mute,
Yeah.
na-mute lang.
Sorry. Sure.
So ulitin natin. So for the best practices for employees data protection, so number one is assess the data you have. So what are these data and how important are they for your employees and business? So you need to identify first what is important. Ano lang yung important na information na no need to get all the information na hindi naman kailangan. So next is categorize your stored data. Categorizing allows your department to conveniently access all the information of your employees' data without having to waste hours finding and locating them from scattered files. It will help restrict access only to those authorized, so sensitive information will be protected. So yung categorizing the data or your files, to be exact, is important for you to easily access kung ano yung mga information na kailangan mo. Like for example, sa resume data bank natin, you only need all the resumes for a particular position or particular field, nandun yon. So nakakategorize siya kung anong client, kung anong profession or yung field nung applicant. You have to, they are all categorized. So yun yung para madali mong hanapin kapag nag-search ka na nung applicant na kailangan mo. Like, for example, if you are looking for a CPA, just go to the folder for the CPA. So makikita mo na lahat doon yung mga applicant na certified public accountant. So, ganun siya. Kailangan i-categorize mo para madali siyang hanapin. So, next best practices is to encrypt all data. While it's pretty standard for businesses only to encrypt highly sensitive information like IDs, a better approach is to encrypt the entire files of employees. So this is very sensitive lalo na pag yung personal data ng isang employee yung pinag-uusapan. Like for example, yung mga salary or yung health condition ng employee, dapat those are sensitive information na kailangan i-encrypt mo yon or lagyan ng password kung yung bawat files ng bawat empleyado para at least hindi siya ma-access ng ibang tao. So those very sensitive information must be encrypted. Okay? Then train the HR department. Managers need to be professionally prepared to handle situation if an employee resign from an organization. It's imperative that they do so to prevent data leaks. A regular update of the training is necessary to keep managers up to date on the latest employment, law development, and best practices for handling departing employees. So, meron talagang hindi mo maiiwasan na merong aalis na employee sa iyong company. So, importante na all the information will not be pwede kasing makuha yung information na yon nung aalis na employee. So, dapat restricted siya doon o para maiwasan yung mga leak, data leak. So, dapat bago umalis yung empleyado is mapalitan kagad yung password na yung alam niya, dapat mapalitan. So, regularly, dapat napapalitan yon, especially pag mayroong umaalis na empleyado. Okay? So, yun. Those are the next,
I think we
another,
still have one more.
ha? Tapos na?
Sorry, sir. Yeah, no, we still have
This one. This one. Sa'yo na to?
No, sir, that's yours.
Okay. Require authentication. Only authorized users should be able to access confidential information to prevent unauthorized access. All the system in your HR department computer should be protected with authorized authentication. So yun nga, like what I said before, only authorized person like managers o yung mga higher department heads should know the access or password para meron sila access sa mga confidential information. Pero lower than the managerial, at least meron restricted lang sila. Para at least merong hindi lahat ng information is i-spread or na-shared ng ibang department. Okay? So,
Yes.
that's a wrap.
Yeah. So basically that's it. That's all about Data Privacy Act, its overview, best practices, and disadvantages. So I hope you guys learned something about it. Before we have our icebreaker, do you have any questions or anything that you wanted to clarify before we end this webinar session? You guys are free to ask questions if you have. So I think don't have any questions naman. So I think we can move on, sir, with the icebreaker before we end the session.
So, yung icebreaker natin, let's see. Asan siya? Wait.